Why is it more acceptable in media that people dying in the gruesome ways is more acceptable than showing a reproductive organs? Level of explicitity would be my guess. Games like Manhunt, Hatred, Yandir Simulator, etc. are generally considered not really acceptable to public. What I mean is that you can show tits with no hassle and they are gonna be realistic enough to be considered unacceptable. If you depict a realistic enough body after explosion, then you'll be asked to, at least, hide it under 18 tag. George Carlin first listed in his 1972 7 words you can never say on television monologue. The words, in the order Carlin listed them, are shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. Parallel to this is copious depiction of gun violence, but we can't have any swearing. Sex was taboo in many cultures and religions while violence was entertainment. You could watch gladiator fights and public executions, but sex was seen as a private act fulfilling God's will, meant only for procreation within marriage. When you got caught having sex outside of marriage, you go straight to hell. This mindset is strongly rooted in our history and made sex something forbidden from being shown, while violence was considered acceptable viewing. Violence sells fear, nudity sparks distractions. Blame our weird cultural hang-ups. This is a very specifically American issue. In most other places, gore is seen as much worse than nudity. In America, gore is okay, but nudity is not, and this says a lot about American culture when you think about it. Well, the deaths are all fake, but the whiners are real. It's just American influences. The US is extremely prudish, likely because of the fucked up way religion is entwined into their society. This is country specific. In Canada, the rules are more flexible on nudity, higher on violence. Seems to be the reverse in the US. This may be changing in more recent years in the online era, but it was the case previously. We saw a lot of bare breasts on Canadian TV growing up, but virtually no gore. Because young children deal with death from a very young age, but do not deal with sexuality. It's the same reason you can take a 5-year-old to karate, but not to a brothel. Is it in America? Since there are a lot of crazy stuffs in Japanese video games. Because exploring the side of humanity that only a very few get to see in reality has more merit to it than examinations of something that most adults encounter at least once. With very few exceptions, most folks get some before they die. Most folks do not see true carnage. You can tell a more compelling story by delving into the unknown. Edit. Just realized I completely butchered the title's grammar. Can't change it now. My guess. Fear of intimacy-moral thoughts vs the objectification of nameless meat and compartmentalization others' suffering. Puritanical Americans, gore good, boobs bad. You can easily face violence, not as much nudity. Because if you want to try to kill someone in gruesome ways that you never knew before like you had watched, you might enjoy it, but there will be very bad consequences for you. If you want to try out all of the genital sex stuff that you never knew before like you watched, you might enjoy it and do it more often. Because sex will corrupt young minds, but desensitizing to gruesome death will not. It heavily depends on what media you're talking about. Sometimes, the gruesome deaths are so over-the-top absurd that you can distance yourself from the brutality. With this game's ragdoll physics are hilarious, or I cut off his head and blood JPEGs splattered everywhere. That's so cool, e.g. GTA games, but it's harder to do that if you're shown a cock or something. Both are gonna be rated 18 if shown, but usually you can get away with a lower age rating if your violence is cartoony enough that you're more likely to elicit laughs than shock disgust. That's an American Puritan thing.